So wow, a Canadian discovers snow on Mars. How appropriate is that? With that introduction, truly you must understand that I'm a space cadet in its most pure definition of the term. My earliest memories, in fact, were walking around the rocket garden at the Kennedy Space Center and watching ghostly images on this little black and white TV in our living room where I grew up north of Toronto, where we had signals coming in from Buffalo of these men bouncing around on the moon. And these promises of this future that I was going to live in, because it wasn't just watching Neil and Buzz on the moon. I could turn the channel and watch Captain Kirk, rocket through the galaxy in the Starship Enterprise. And I could go to the theater and watch 2001: A Space Odyssey, and what it might be like to meet intelligences so much faster than ours that they appear godlike. And then we all grew up, that generation, into a world where that didn't happen. So we didn't have our moon base, we didn't have our wheel in space. Where's my Mars colony? I and many others like me were orphans of Apollo, given a promise that wasn't fulfilled. Well, it's payback time. One of the ironies of the space age is that only by going out into space and looking back on Earth did we realize the fragility of our world. And with irony, it led to the world of conservation, of protectionism, of the idea of limits to growth and finite resources. Well, it's true, we do live on a world of finite resources. We live in this world where we're fighting over land and energy and materials. But we're an island, a small island, in an ocean of space that has infinite resources. And one of the great realities that we live in, that we're not just an island alone in the ocean, we're actually a two-world system. The sister world that we have, called the moon, it happens to be a moon, and it's called the moon, has vast resources, trillions of dollars of resources. It's a repository. Think of it like an eighth continent, just separated by a little bit of ocean that we have to learn how to navigate. And we sent our robotic probes to the moon, particularly in the last 10 years, and exponential technology has allowed us to understand what's on the moon. We have mapped more of the moon than we have of the Earth. And why is there so much stuff on the moon that we can use? It's because everything that we utilize on the Earth came from outer space. The gold, the platinum, the silver, all of the heavy metals were bombarded by asteroids in the early history of the solar system. The difference is the Earth was a much larger object, so it was molten for much longer, and a lot of those things sunk, and it was hard to get to. That's why you have to dig to get to these things. But the same thing happened to the moon. So every crater that you see on the moon, it's a scar from that ancient bombardment. It's a meteor. It's an asteroid strike. So the moon has been aggregating asteroid resources for billions of years. We know what's there. We just have to go get it. But what's different is it didn't sink because the moon was actually a much smaller body. It was cooled much more rapidly. So when those asteroids hit, they vaporized, they shattered. They're mostly on the surface, so we know where those are. But what's the economics of it? The game changer that was discovered most recently is that there's water on the moon. So we're on a water planet. How big a deal is that? Well, think of water as the oil of the solar system. Those atoms, hydrogen and oxygen, actually are rocket fuel. So it's a game changer, not just for liberating the resources of the moon, but it's a game changer for the entire solar system because we have a fuel depot in the sky. We just have to learn how to harvest those resources of water, H2O, and turn them into rocket fuel and other means of survival. So it's a game changer. And the companies that are able to do this will make Exxon look like a lemonade stand. Welcome to the Moon Rush. Moon Express is a company. We're focused on robotic transportation to the moon. So we have this island that's starving for resources, and an island just next door with a supermarket. We just have to solve that way of getting there. We want to disrupt space transportation beyond Earth orbit. Disrupt? Well, there's really nothing there. Well, that's the point. Now with exponential technology and the power of computation that I can hold in my back pocket, which is 1 billion times more than NASA had when they landed the first humans on the moon, small groups of people, entrepreneurial groups of people, can now create the technologies and the spacecraft to reach what was only reachable by superpowers before. We're building a breakthrough robotic spacecraft system that can make it from Earth orbit to the moon to explore for resources. We're concentrating on a micro-miniaturized version of it called MX-1 that could fit on the circle in the stage. And we're putting that as a secondary ride on a rocket. We're not buying a whole rocket. We're just fitting in as a hitchhiker underneath the primary payload. So instead of $100 million, it's $10 million. It's a cheap ride into space. And once we're in space, we're like a platform. Yes, we can reach the moon, but we can do a whole lot of other things. We're building like the iPhone of space. We announced this spacecraft in Las Vegas in 2013. Our first mission, our main mission to moon, will be a technology demonstrator, partner with Google, partner with NASA, and we'll be showing that a private company can do what was only possible by superpowers. We think that will be a singularity moment in space. It will redefine what's possible, and new markets will open up to us. Our second mission is planned to deliver an observatory to the south pole of the moon. It'll be the first moon cam. People will be able to dial into it, there's an anachronistic term, through the internet and be able to look out into the universe and back at Earth and see vistas that only astronauts have seen. Pay dirt comes around 2020 when we actually bring a sample back. We think something the size of a baseball or a basketball will be worth about $1 billion. And then that'll prove the concept of being able to go and get stuff from another world, bring it back, own it, sell it, and initiate the case law necessary to say the private sector can do business not just on Earth, but on other worlds. I was very lucky to meet two of my co-founders, Naveen Jain and Barney Pell, who we founded the company with in 2010. You may know some of them. We put together a great executive team, brought together some of the most experienced engineers with hundreds of missions behind them, and populated the company with these moon hackers, these 20-somethings, these energetic kids that say, why not? And they're so annoying sometimes because they're often right. So we're doing things that we're taking technology from NASA and applying Silicon Valley type rapid innovation and prototyping and testing to it. Fail early, fail often, fail digitally. We're able to invest into a spacecraft platform just across the road at NASA Ames called the Hover Test Vehicle. This is where we got our training wheels. NASA had built this vehicle. We're able to take advantage of it, put our software on it. Our team learned how to write software to actually fly a vehicle. Then we graduated to this vehicle called the Mighty Eagle at the NASA Marshall Space Flight Center. We upped the game a little bit. This is where we actually got our driver's license. It was NASA's hardware, so we're dealing with somebody else's asset, but we used our digital assets to actually make it fly. And this video, if we could run it, please, it just shows you what this was like a couple of years ago when we got our driver's license. This vehicle, as you'll see, uses hydrogen peroxide. So the steam that you see coming out of the vents of the rocket engines actually is steam. So H2O2, hydrogen peroxide, decomposes over catalyst beds to provide a propulsion which is actually invisible because it's just high-power steam. So we're flying this in a mode that is going up about 300 feet or so, which looks really high, believe me, when you're dealing with somebody else's asset. And our goal was not to land upside down, but right side up. And in doing so, prove the validity of our guidance, navigation, and control software so we could, after this, invest in our own vehicle. And we're happy to say that, indeed, we landed right side up. Now it's time to build our own. So we invested a couple $1 million into building our own technology. We were able to hire Tim Pickens of Spaceship One fame. He was the Spaceship One's engineering lead for their propulsion system. Tim built a rocket engine based on the same technology, hydrogen peroxide. We're going to be sending hydrogen peroxide, basically steam engine spacecraft, to the moon. And every good Silicon Valley company starts in a garage. This is the very first video of our first rocket engine in Tim's garage in Huntsville, Alabama. You see the same steam. So we're using hydrogen peroxide decomposed. One of the reasons why we want to use hydrogen peroxide is water, H2O, can become H2O2. So we actually have that fuel depot on the moon. And we then partner with NASA under a program called Lunar Catalyst. So just like SpaceX and Orbital Sciences are partnered with NASA to deliver cargo to the space station, NASA's now partnered with us to eventually deliver cargo to the moon, science and engineering. And last December, we actually built our first prototype spacecraft, went down to the Kennedy Space Center, in Florida, where I had those earliest memories, and we're able to fly our own vehicle. And this video will be those 2 minutes conglomeration of those tests and that experience back in December. And all we need to do is replace that final animation by a video sequence, and we're on the moon. How hard is that? So we are going back to the moon, and we're going to fulfill that vision that we orphans of Apollo had as children, to create a new economic reality for the world where we're a multi-world species and we create an economic version of trade between the continents, only this time it's trade between worlds. And I hope that in the future, in the next couple of years, you'll be seeing us launching out of the Kennedy Space Center towards the moon. Earlier this year, we've announced that we were taking over Launch Complex 36 at Cape Canaveral, where we'll be testing more spaceflight-like versions of our landers. So stay tuned, and someday, if you are all inclined, I wouldn't mind you coming to the moon with me. Thank you very much.
And Bob, I do have.
Oh,
hi.
Hi.
I do have actually one question for you while you're up there. Many of the folks here are either entrepreneurs or investors, and they're always excited about new opportunities. I'm sure after your presentation, they're really excited about lunar exploration. So I'm curious, what opportunities are you seeing available now or even into the future as we start bringing these resources back to the U.S.? It might be a little bit of a leading question.
Sounds like I planted that question. Well, it's funny you should ask. I think the first trillionaires we made out of investments in space resources, obviously Moon Express is one of those vanguard companies. We're in the mainframe era of space, just transforming into the PC era. We're in our C round right now, and by the end of this year, we hope to have enough capital to actually head out to the moon and create a whole new economic opportunity. So happy to bring anybody with me that wants to go to the moon with me.
Fantastic. And Bob, you know what? We're all orphans of Apollo.
All orphans, please apply. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bob Richards.